So the mental mechanics of shadow work is this. We have a brain. Our brain is a mechanism, okay? The thoughts that we have from the mind, that is considered to be like the oil or the gas that you're putting into it. So when you go throughout life and starting from a young age, this is why shadow work usually starts with your childhood. People or you understanding your childhood and growing up to the point of where you are now, because you're reaching back into your childhood and you're seeing things that might have traumatized you, or there were certain things that were put together for the way you function in life. So if your brain is a mechanism and the way you were raised a certain way, the little screws or parts that were left out, certain pieces could have been left out for you to not be able to operate in a way that is conducive to survive in society, or to really just be yourself within society, because certain pieces might have been thrown away. Somebody might have told you you're not good enough at something, and so you said, okay, I'm gonna throw that away. I don't want to be that anymore. I was gonna be a great I was going to be a great writer, or I was going to be a great track star or a football player, or I was going to be a great scientist. But because somebody else traumatized me, or they ended up throwing a monkey wrench into the mechanics of my mind, now I have to go backwards into that, and I have to fix that part of myself, and I have to put screws into it, and I have to put the pieces together in order to get me functioning correctly, because I feel as though I'm missing something in myself. Trauma work, shadow work, deals with traumatic experiences or anything that is causing you to have a certain way of actions that might be detrimental to who you are in society and how you go about the world. The engineer that created all this, whatever you say, God, Allah, whatever you want to describe the God as, I say the universe that created us from one consciousness, we were already engineered a certain way as far as how our bodies are made up, how our brain is. You know what I'm saying? How we have open spaces for neural pathways to develop certain things. But the thing is, when you're on the planet and you're being introduced to different things that can shock you or that can traumatize you, for instance, like if you went to a fair when you were young and you see that one of the rides came apart and some people fell off of that ride, and that traumatized you, even though you were really dedicated to going and getting on a carnival ride, when you see something like that, it could traumatize you. So now if you go to the fair, or if somebody asks you to go, you have that in your mind like, oh no, I don't want to go, let's do something else, I'm not interested. And they're like, well, why? We want to get on the carnival with you. No, I'm not interested. So that's a trauma there, and you have to go in and correct that, because now you have a distrust of something you've seen that gave you a traumatic experience. But you don't want to go around the world like that and think that everything is going to happen bad to you. You want to understand that it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen to you. Shadow work is about finding the things that are making you behave in a certain way and being able to heal it and being able to move forward with it in an integrated state. So I wanted to go into talking about the importance of Lord Thoth, and what people call Thoth or Jehudi. Really, that word Thoth is really meant to be thought. Okay? Thoth or thought, Lord Thoth or Lord Thoth, is represented by the moon. So he's a moon deity, but he was a part of a solar empire, or a solar civilization, which was ancient Kemet. He's the god of writing, the god of magic, the god of arithmetic, mathematics, all sorts of different sciences. Psychology being in there too. So when we write down things and we're observing, and he's called the record keeper. When we observe these things we're writing down about ourselves, this is how we're doing the inner work, dealing with our shadow work. Because the moon itself, the reason why it represents the subconscious mind is because, and it has different phases, okay, is because the moon is lit up, or it's recognized by the light that the sun leaves on it. Okay, so when we're dealing with our writing and we're dealing with finding out more about ourselves, when we're writing these things down and we're studying them, we're beginning to be introduced to ourselves. So Lord Thoth, or Lord Thoth, he represents the aspect of us understanding the science of ourselves. Lord Thoth is represented by an ibis bird. Okay, if you see the ibis bird, it has a long beak. So let me give you the science of the ibis bird and how it functions, and how that is a comparison, and it relates to why in Africa Lord Thoth was aligned with the ibis bird. So other than the obvious of its beak looking like a writing utensil, the ibis bird also hunts a certain way. When it goes into the water and it sticks its beak down into the mucky, muddy parts of the water, and it pulls out morsels of food. Let's put it this way. We're comparing this to Lord Thoth because Lord Thoth understands that the greatest mysteries are in the hearts of men and women. So when Lord Thoth sticks his beak, metaphorically, into your heart and pulls out certain morsels, or sticks his beak into your mind and pulls out certain unrefined thoughts or light energy that can be refined and analyzed, this is where he aligns with what you call shadow work. This is what doing the writing and all those things are about. An ibis bird goes through the muck and the mud, and it pulls out morsels of light energy for you to understand, okay, about yourself. This is why he's represented by the ibis bird. If we think of how Anubis or Ampu accompanies him when we're dealing with the scales of Mayat and the balancing, the jackal is an animal that buries meat into the dirt, and when it buries its meat, it knows how to come back just in time to pull out the meat from the dirt, and it knows how to get it right before it turns rotten. So this is in alignment with good judgment. That's why Anubis represents the scales as well too. And Lord Thoth and Anubis work together in balancing based off of good judgment and based off of seeing what is truly in someone's heart. And this is what you're doing when you're doing your shadow work with the writing. That's the whole point of all of that, okay? So the writing aspect is dealing with Lord Thoth or thought. It is dealing with Anubis for balance, and it is dealing with the scales of understanding yourself and you balancing yourself out on those scales. I've been writing since I was a kid. I've written graphic novels or comics, stories. I've written music, lyrics, as a lyricist, rapper. You know, I've been doing that for a very long time. So when it comes to writing, we have to understand writing is dealing with symbols. Every type of word you read, until you're taught how to pronounce it and the understanding of the meaning of it, it would just look like symbols to you. So whether you're looking at Arabic writing, whether you're looking at Spanish, whatever type of writing system you're looking at, you're seeing symbols. When you're attaching the way it's pronounced or how it's to be said, then that's when you're able to unravel the symbol. It's just like you looking at any type of symbol. When we understand what the root of the symbol is, the meaning behind it, then we're able to connect with the symbol and put it in use. I want y'all to understand like that you see these different deities or these ancestor energies, any of those things, they're all representations of a formula, okay? And a formula is something that has a symbolic representation of what makes it function. So there's a function behind certain symbols, but the symbol is used to identify it. Just like you look at the periodical table of elements, if you deal with the four elements of air, fire, water, earth, they have the triangle representation of it, and they have lines place certain areas for you to know it's land and not water, or air and not fire. So these all have a representation of a broader meaning. And that's why words are just symbols, no matter how we write them.